Hello, everybody. It's James with another research report for you. This is my CEO Jimbo playlist. It's just right at midnight here on Monday night, Labor Day, 2023, and I'm coming out of 2 weeks of research again, which has been the trend. Um, Finished up. I was working on section 3 last time. I gave my report on section 3 of my book that I'm writing, which was on navigation, more or less. And this chapter is this section is section 4, which is sort of other. I'm trying to um, help people find the missing airliner, Malaysian Airlines flight 7, flight whatever it is, the Malaysian 777 that disappeared, 370, flight 370. It took off from Kuala Lumpur about over 9 years ago. It's coming up on 10 years, I believe, and still hasn't been found. I'm going to show you some things on my book here. I don't have really anything totally exciting. The most exciting thing is just to talk about those planes a little bit. And again, tonight's subject is on communications and timing, and specifically the 4 chapters in this section are people, places, things, and then sort of other, and I'll get to that in a minute. So I have my book kind of in front of me here. This is on my tablet, and I have this excerpt up here because I don't think I would find it again. It's not really that super great, but I hope I didn't change that. Yeah, mining. I've become very interested in mining. Yeah, as I've mentioned on my earlier ones, there's a lot of lists that I've been coming through, and I learned this through so at least like one anthropology class that I took at Harvard Extension School, and I think actually from a book on college strategy on just doing good in college, where if you're dealing with like archaeological classes, you kind of compile things in lists to get a good understanding of it, so you can really ace tests and so forth. And I'm finding kind of quite a bit of information on mining, not quite a bit, but like maybe 3 or 4 things that might kind of add up. That maybe I'll start finding more and more of these things. I don't know what this is. Oh yeah, this is kind of like, there's kind of like 2 aspects of mining. One is mining to find the airplane itself, and the other one is mining. There were like people that were associated with mining that were on the flight, and so forth, that might be part of the puzzle as to why the plane disappeared, and so forth. I'll get to that a little bit later, hopefully, on this video. I'm pretty sure I will. I'm going to kind of swing right up to the top of this book, kind of scroll through it here. This is the table of contents just for this section. The book is currently called The Joy of Air Travel, which is sort of sardonic, and I may change it. I'm just kind of playing with that. Section 4 is on communication, timing, and other. And chapter 13, people, 14, places, things, and 16, paranormal and other. I'm really considering everything. I don't think that anything really paranormal happened to this. I think that it's something very complicated happened to it, and um, and I think that people are sort of like looking in the wrong places for it, and that's why they're not finding it. As my own personal opinion, um, and I'm trying to kind of help uh, people. The only change here, sort of almost for the worse, but for you all, but maybe, but not for my book. I think I had like a whole bunch on Blaine Gibson, and I just don't have room to really touch on it like I thought I did, and so I have to kind of back off a little bit. Vance was a book author and an accident investigator. This Florence Cheney is a book author and so forth. That I may kind of change to Jeff Wise and take her out because of a couple of different reasons. Jeff Wise, they both wrote books, and Jeff Wise's book was a #1 seller on the New York, whatever that is, bestseller list or whatever, New York Times, I think it is. And I don't think her book is of that caliber. She also kind of says bad things about my country, like my country did it, and I don't think that Jeff Wise says that. So that's something I have to kind of consider a little bit. Um, uh, so I'm not going to go through every one of these. I want to kind of move on to places because I worked on people sort of like last time this came up in the rotation, and I went on. But I didn't get this far last time. I think Waterless was a victim. He lost his wife and two of his three kids, and he thinks that the airplane. He doesn't know. I think currently he's sort of just baffled and wants people to honestly tell him what happened to it, lead him to it, kind of thing. He was thinking that before that the plane had been maybe shot down because of some people that were on board the flight, and he didn't know why or who, but like somebody took down the plane because they didn't want the people on the flight to get to where they were going or something like that. Um, this lady um, was I think I just kind of learned her school. She thinks that the captain did it, I think, and that was kind of news. Um, uh, she's kind of changed a little bit just in her general stance, where she was really saying, early on, she was like a college student when this happened and was really um, one way. And the last interview, just a year or two ago or something like that, she was basically saying that, she has a kid now, and, it happened, and, she'd still like to know answers, but, life has gone on, I think is kind of her things, where she was saying as a college student, life has stopped, and, we need to get on with life by getting this plane kind of thing. Anyway, moguls. Oh, one thing on the moguls, I trying to find a connection just by hunch that like maybe that Elon Musk, the richest guy in the world, would have something to have said about this, but I can't really find anything that he did say about it. But he's sort of under the school of uh, being able to like travel without people like tracking you. Um, at least with like business jets, he's having problems where people are sort of like tracking every move he makes and so forth. And so there's sort of like a discussion on that as to how much these planes like um, 777s flying over water need to be tracked and so forth. And oddly, this plane wasn't actually supposed to go over water very much. It took off from Kuala Lumpur and just kind of briefly crossed the Sea of Thailand, and then kind of crossed Vietnam and kind of went over the South China Sea a little bit, but it was roughly kind of mostly over China land and so on. But anyway, Jeff Bezos, he kind of got into like trying to find rockets, and there's sort of like this controversy as to who owns what. Like, if he found rockets that, like Apollo 11 rocket, I guess, and claims sort of like finders keepers, but the U.S. government is basically saying, no, that's ours. So, how much is that going to happen when, people find like MH370, and so on. Maybe that's why nobody's been finding it. So on with that, on to places. The derivative of Mongolia here, and this is really kind of, we're onto the kind of the meat now. That was sort of the hamburger top bun there, and the meat of our story is sort of Mongolia. I heard, like watching videos, long time ago, but not that long ago. When I kind of first came into this, like maybe about a year ago or so, I was watching like all the videos on this, and some people were putting forth, or at least one person did, that the airplane, kind of jokingly, was in a hangar in Mongolia, and it's like, and it kind of like stuck in my mind. It's like, why would they say Mongolia? How did they pick Mongolia over just, in a hangar in Nebraska or a hangar in Anchorage? How did they pick the, Mongolia? And so I've kind of like studied Mongolia a little bit, and there's sort of like a list of things that have to do with Mongolia. And this was kind of my task of the week here, is I had to kind of fill this in because I had nothing on it. And so this is like chapter 14, section 1, and this is part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, and they were all empty, and I just really kind of had to dig and dig, and my laptop computer that I was using was locking up, so this was really kind of laborious. But what I finally kind of happy that I found 3 of the 4 that I was looking for here, and they're kind of all kind of different. I knew this one in advance, but I didn't know that this is one of the passengers, and he was an engineer and had to do, he took a job mining there, and he was heading from Australia to Mongolia to start living there to work for a mining company, and his specialty is in large machinery involving mining or something like that. And I kind of learned that he was involved in large machinery, and I didn't know that, I think. This Mr. Brodsky supposedly was on the flight, a Russian fellow, and he is a scuba diver, was a scuba diver, is, however you say that. Back to that Grace lady I was talking about, she doesn't refer to her mom as in the past tense because of the lack of closure. And I think some other people are like that too. So you kind of, how do you, do I talk about this person as in the past tense or the current tense? Maybe the flight is in a hangar in Mongolia and that people are hanging out in Mongolia. So this guy was a cold water scuba diver, lived in coldest Siberia, and he had just recently gone down to tropical waters somewhere approximately to do scuba diving, get instruction and learn like warm water scuba diving, which people kind of found as odd because he'd never done that before. Um, and he seemed to be doing it maybe kind of more for with professional mindset than just going down to have some scuba fun holiday, um, and so on. So maybe he was involved in wanting to scuba dive, you know, in the mining industry, and there he was going. He had been planning a business trip. I think he was taking this flight to go to Mongolia to a business meeting involving mining or something like that. And then finally, there was a passenger, an Indian person on board the flight, I believe, that was the grandson of the person that was in charge of mining and minerals or something like that with the Indira Gandhi administration. And this person was on board the flight, the MH370. I don't know that they were heading off to Mongolia, but they had sort of mining in their blood in a big way and so forth. So kind of to move on where I'm going with this a little bit, and I don't remember where I wrote that. Oh, I have a list here somewhere. Made one of these this time. Somewhere on this little slip of paper here, I mentioned, right here, 727. Long time ago, maybe 5 years ago or something like that, could be 10 years ago, I read a news article just online, like in Yahoo News or Google News or something like that, about a 727 they had landed in like a southeast African country and had been seized by the government. The people that were on board this 727, there was like 7 people, and there were like picks and axes and like mining equipment. And the government basically sort of like arrested them all and charged them on attempted coup. And they were basically saying, no, 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 we're just miners. We're, heading off to somewhere and we need gas. And so that's where we landed our plane here. And we're heading off to Northern Africa to do some mining or something. And I really don't know how that ended. I've been meaning to kind of get to that, but it is a different flight, and it's kind of hard to kind of like shift from MH370 to this flight, even to do research for MH370. So anyway, you can play with that if you want. And there's a lot on satellites. So there's a new news article right now on Amelia Earhart. I guess somebody had kind of seen a satellite image and thought that they maybe kind of just recently discovered a picture or satellite image that had a cowling from that plane or something like that. And anyway, there's people that have said that they've seen satellite images of the plane on the water in different places. And I think my kind of argument is that, eyewitness is far better than, than like looking at like satellite imagery and pictures and so forth. I'll kind of leave it at that. There's new news information on Whisper that there's kind of like a breakthrough that isn't a breakthrough, kind of, where they're saying that this guy that really is sort of like the wizard of this Whisper technology has definitely like located where the plane is, but it doesn't sound like nobody's like taken a scope down there to see it or anything like that. So kind of stay tuned on that. I've kind of mixed things on this, where it's good that they're doing this, but it's sort of bad that they're sort of like making these statements that they found it when they haven't found it. Um, barnacles. There's another news article currently on barnacles, which seems to be kind of the same old thing all over again. Where I mean, the people have like studied those barnacles a long time ago when the flaperon was first found, and I think I read that somebody was like saying that the part had to have come from tropical waters because the barnacles don't live anywhere but in tropical waters. So there's no way it could have been down in the South Indian Ocean, down by Australia, because you had those barnacles on it. But the current thing is they're saying that they're starting to kind of like notice that there's different like ages of the barnacles. They're sort of like small ones, medium-sized ones, and large ones. And so they're sort of like finding that they can kind of make like three different layers of data, from the three different like barnacle categories or something like that. The odd thing about this that really is a head scratcher to me is they're talking barnacles, but I've seen pictures of these and they look like they're mussels. And I wonder if anybody else has wondered that. Are we talking about barnacles or are we talking about mussels? Seems like the scientists would be calling them mussels if they're mussels. But the whole discussion, the whole world is talking about barnacles on these things. But if you look at them, they seem to me, if you ask me what they were, if cornered, I would basically say those look like mussels. They don't look like barnacles coming from a fisherman, that would pick mussels to use them as bait. Barnacles you can't do that with. They're like little kind of like pimples, little bumps that like live on like crab backs and stuff like that you can't pick off to use as bait. Pope. Back to Mongolia. What time? Oh yeah, it's running 22. I've got a sum up here. Seems like when I talk about something, like Mongolia, then it comes up in the news, Mongolia. The Pope is like going to Mongolia now. I've been doing a lot of searching where I've been typing in search engines, MH370 Mongolia for about the last couple of months and so on. And now all of a sudden it seems like the Pope is going to Mongolia. I wonder if there's any correlation to that. Anyway, I got to go. I'm going to show you this. I kind of crossed off somebody. I added Jeff Wise in my thing here. Added Jim Hall back in. So anyway, we were talking about, this is the guy that has to do with that Whisper, Godfrey, and so forth. These two are book authors. This is a book author. He's the New York Times bestseller guy. On my planes, I forgot to mention the other time is I really have a mental image of the plane upside down in the water. I did this a long time ago where I did the gray on the bottom, and I never really kind of mentioned that I just really think that the plane was, the eyewitness that was seeing this from the air actually was not seeing it right side up but upside down. And that's maybe why the fuselage was not able to be seen. It was a gray fuselage and it was like silvery or white wings. It just seems to me that what she describes is the airplane upside down on the water, not right side up. Anyway, hope you like this. Please thumbs up and subscribe. Happy Labor Day. We're getting into Tuesday now. Have a good one. So long. Bye.